Right, this was the last drop. I'm sending the camera back to Fujifilm. My X-T4 is now on its way to Fuji, and I wanted to give you some details about my issues with it. I've had the X-T4 since the release date, and then used it and abused it for over 20,000 photos and hours of video. But it's always been problematic for me, a much worse experience compared to my previous Fujifilm cameras. And over the past months, I've had 4 major problems that in the end forced my decision. Now, the main reasons why I decided to upgrade from the X-T2 were the video capabilities, and of course the stabilization was a big factor. But since my initial videos, I always had issues with it. I was not expecting it to give me battery smooth footage while on a bumpy walk. I'm not that naive, but it often feels like the camera has a mind of its own when it comes to IBIS, as it tries to overcompensate when I move it slowly, so you see bumps every now and then, or it decides on its own how to adjust the footage, creating some weird warping effect. And so I went back to the Fujifilm store to have staff there look at it, and we played a little with the settings, and they asked me to test for some more time. But they also conceded it was indeed a bit off. And more interestingly, they asked me if this was a pre-ordered model, suggesting that these things may happen more frequently than I thought. And one issue I experienced straight away with my first gear-related video on this channel was that the autofocus tool was fairly opinionated. And rather than focusing on my face or my eyes, it would always aim at trees in the background. Even on a very simple scene, it doesn't seem to happen in every scenario. And I suppose if it's a bit windy and the leaves move, it's then the movement that distracts the camera. But that's not good. And I also had another focus issue when I was shooting the time-lapse for the Moonrise mission. And so while I was on manual focus and completely out of the blue, the camera decided to start focus hunting between frames. And so I ended up with about 20 frames completely out of focus, which was so weird. One major issue that is actually extremely annoying for me has to do with the weather sealing. Now, I use my old X-T2 in the worst possible rainy scenarios, completely drenching the camera, and yet it always kept working flawlessly. But with the X-T4 on the other hand, even the lightest of drizzles would impact the flip screen. All of a sudden, 1 or 2 raindrops hitting the camera somewhere would just kill the screen. Dead, kaput, can't use it anymore, until everything dries up. And if you ask me, a camera that stops working with 2 raindrops, even only in parts, can be cold weather sealed. And this is a huge step backwards from the X-T2. And it happened during my rain cinematic vlog as well, something I kept out of the final video that you can watch on this channel. Last but not least, the last major issue happened last week, when I was out with Michael from London Viewpoints to shoot time-lapses. And I'll link his video down below if you're interested. But I was with him recording a Holy Grail day-to-night time-lapse, and all was going smoothly, until I noticed that the camera was recording the frame very erratically. It was basically skipping every other frame. I was shooting at 3 seconds exposure every 6 seconds or so, I thought, but the camera was actually recording the frames first at 6 seconds, then at 12, then at 6, then at 12, then at 6, etc. And I know what you're thinking, but it couldn't be a buffer issue because I use fast SD cards, which manage 6 times the file size of my RAW file every second. Now the time-lapse ended up being fine, you don't notice the skipped frames, but it's been yet another issue with the X-T4. But frankly, it's a bit of a disappointment, and I'm sure these are problems of my unit, not of every X-T4 out there. And in fact, some of my friends don't even have the same IBIS issue that I have, for example, although some others have problems with the autofocus. And this is the reason why I'm now returning the camera to Fujifilm. I'm sending it to the Fujifilm repair service in Bedford, and I know people there, and they are absolutely amazing engineers who always go the extra mile to help us Fuji photographers. And as a registered member of the Fujifilm Professional Service, I know I should get my camera back in 3 days, or eventually get a replacement if they find it faulty. So now I can only wait, and use the X-T2 for the time being, which, video aside, is very much on par with the quality of the X-T4, so I know I'll be fine. But if you own the Fujifilm X-T4 and have had issues yourself, let me know in the comments what they are and what you've done with them. Or if you never had issues, good for you. Write a comment and let me feel more miserable. I would like to know your experience if you have other camera brands as well, just in case I have to make another choice sometime in the future. Who knows? But yeah, well, let's hope it's all good now. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!